Hi, this is Johnny Major, and I thought I would do another video on something that just came up last night from a current customer using Valence. The business case was that they have files that are sitting, let's say, on the IFS that are sensitive, that they cannot allow access, direct access through, let's say, Valence or Apache server. However, they need users to be able to log in to the portal and view these static files, HTML files. So normally, applications are served directly through Apache, so those are static files. And then Valence security comes into play when those files start kicking off AJAX requests, so requesting data, doing business processes. And then Valence will check to see if it's a valid session. Can it proceed? If not, it won't even call those backend programs, let's say RPG, or if you're using Node, Valence Connect, those Node applications. However, we need to be able to say that these files can't be directly accessed. And when I say files, just the static, let's say a static HTML file. However, if I'm in the portal, I can view those files. So I'm going to go over a solution that was designed to quickly be able to do that. It's really small on the back end and quite small on the front end too, source-wise. So let me just go. I'm just going to use a source editor that's built in with Valence, so I can easily just get to the IFS. So first, we have this document load.html. This is the HTML file that will be referenced on all of my applications that I add to the portal with a parameter of action, and that value could always be different based on the file that I want that user to receive. Okay, so before I start going into detail, I'm going to hide some stuff, the style, and I'm going to hide the script. And let's just go look at this. I already created one Valence app that's set up. And it's just Johnny Major info. Okay, so actually it's calling document loader.html, and you can see it's got a hard-coded action of Johnny Major. So I'm going to walk through the backend for RPG quickly, and then also for Node using Valence Connect. Here is just quick and dirty. This is the main of this RPG program. It's using the Valence RPG toolkit. It's pulling in a parameter of action. That's what it's expecting. If that action equals either this value or this value, it'll serve two different pages, or really return two different files from the IFS. So we have two example private pages on the IFS, HR employee info and Johnny Major info.html. If we take a look back at the IFS, we will see that we have private pages and then these two documents. So these are not accessible directly through Apache. So I can't, start my URL up with my IBMI, the port, and do /private pages /johnnymajor.html. It won't access it. I have not changed the Apache config to allow that, because we don't. That's the reason for this. So first thing is, this document gets loaded, and on the load of the body, we're automatically calling this load document function. Okay. This function first pulls in a parameter of action, and that's that parameter that we saw in the app record right here. Once it receives that and it's not empty, it's going to make an AJAX request. And I'm doing the RPG example first, so it's making an AJAX request to our RPG program that we call priv HTML, and it just passes the value of action. Okay. The next thing we're going to see is that on the response of that AJAX request, we're first doing a try catch. Reason for that: the RPG program could either serve that HTML document, so really just send out that file, or if the action value is either not passed or not valid, it's going to respond back with JSON. So success false and MSG invalid action. So if there is an error, we want to be able to trap that and then let the user know of the message that the backend sent. So anytime that this JSON parse is successful, that means there's an issue. And then all we're doing is just calling a method that we created up above. That's just show error. So right here, we can either pass in a message directly or it defaults to a default message. You would hope 99% of the time, this always fails. We can't JSON.parse the response because it's actually a file. And then that's when we open the document. We override the document, so we write what the backend has responded back. So in this instance, just the raw HTML document. And then we close the document. So we're replacing ourselves. So let's see that in action. So I'm going to come down here and I have two apps, one for Johnny Major Info, one for HR Info. They're both calling this same document loader.html. However, we'd expect to see different information. So we see Johnny Major, some information on Johnny Major. Let's go back to the IFS. If we go to Johnny Major info.html, here it is, really small for example purposes. Now if we run HR Info, we see a different document. Let's go back and take a look at that. And this is what was rendered in the portal. So we can't directly go and access these static pages, so they're not allowed to be served directly from the Apache server. However, this front-end application with the supporting backend, in this example RPG, allows us to serve those documents to those users that have access to these sensitive documents on the IFS. And I'm going to quickly show the Node server using Valence Connect. If you wanted more information on Valence Connect, I did a video not too long ago. You can watch that in installing Valence Connect. So this Node server is running on our IBM i. I've already preset this up, so I'm going to just comment out. I called my RPG program, and instead I'm going to call my Node server. So I'm just getting the current window location and the host name, so I can just bundle it all up because I know that my Node server is running on the same server as my Valence instance. The only difference is the port. Okay, so I've got my base host. I know my Node server is running on 7152, and then I'm calling get HTML document and then passing the action, just like I was passing the action for RPG. Okay, so I'm going to save this real quick, and I expect to get a response. I did. Great. Wait, you know what? Let me just make sure. Didn't reload it. Perfect. And then let's do HR. Perfect. So let's take a look at that node setup real quick and what was added to that to do this. If I go under Johnny Apps, this is my example node server that's running on 7152. What was added was a directory or folder, private pages. They had the same HTML documents sitting in there for both HR employee and Johnny Major. And then really, if we go look at routes, the first thing we're going to go into is the Valence router. And this is where we're bringing in private pages, the private pages API. So if we go into drill into API, we'll see that there's a private pages JS. This is simply just a method. It's expecting the request and the response, of course. It's doing almost exactly what the RPG program was doing. It's pulling in the action. If that action is not empty and equals either HR employee info or Johnny Major, it sends off a document. Else, it responds with JSON. Success false, invalid action. So exact same. And then here's our send document method. That's just sending the file that we know is sitting in private pages, passing the document that was passed in when it was called. Okay. Let's go back to the Valence.js. So all we're doing is just bringing that in, private pages. And then in our routes section, we have a new route, get HTML document, and then private pages. So we know that when the front end is doing Valence, of course, because of Valence Connect, / get HTML document, that's going to route to private pages for us. And then private pages takes over and either returns the document that's inside this Node application server, or responds back with JSON just like the RPG program did. And that's it. And I will have a URL below to the source code if you want it on Git. And that'll be it. Thank you.